he does a video on that I watched actually ages ago before the conspiracy theory podcast that you guys did, where he talked about the Bermuda Triangle. But basically, the whole Bermuda Triangle thing is a load of bollocks, and I'll explain why. So it started off because there was 5 instances of missing flights and voyages off the coast of Florida. In 1952, an article specializing in the paranormal made the triangle between Puerto Rico, Bermuda, and Florida, but there is literally absolutely no reasoning as to why they chose these locations. The original instances that have been quoted in 2 previous articles to this weren't even in like that triangle. And then it became popularized, this Bermuda Triangle, in 1962 in an edition of a pulp fiction magazine, Argosy, which featured all the information from the previous articles, along with a load of made-up quotes and a clear narrative just trying to push this thing, because it's a pulp fiction magazine. It's fiction, pulp fiction. Argosy was not a factual-based magazine. It was there to entertain, not to inform. Did you know then the first example of where the Bermuda Triangle comes from is actually from Christopher Columbus, because apparently supposedly he saw a fireball in the sky, which was, and it happened in September, which is the most common month for meteors. So it was almost certainly just a meteorite. A dodgy compass, because that was because he was trying to line it up with the North Star, but the compass doesn't line up with the North Star because the North Star is true north, whereas your compass lines up with magnetic north. And then the third example of what he saw, which was fishy, was this strange light in the sky, which is actually the only incident out of the 3 that actually occurred in the Bermuda Triangle. But he even says in his book, when he writes it down, I think it's because we were approaching land, and then a couple of days later, they were like, land ahoy. So it was pretty much just land. And then the big one that everyone goes to is the Flight 19, which I'm sure you guys have heard of.
Yeah, the Malaysia flight, is that?
Yeah.
No, Flight 19 is when 14 experienced pilots set out just like to do a training ground routine from Fort Lauderdale. They were just flying around, sort of doing this thing, doing like a training flight path or something.
Yeah.
But the guy who was the teacher taking out these students, the student was the head flight, like was leading the flight. One of the students was, but this guy who was taking them along for the journey had just moved from, what's it called?
America.
Either way, near Florida, down. No, they were all in America still. But they took off from Florida. What's the island at the bottom of? Either way, basically, he got
Hawaii?
confused with 2. No. He got confused with the
He
2 islands.
believed the small islands he passed over were the Florida Keys, and that his flight was over the Gulf of America, and that heading northeast would take them to Florida. It was determined that Taylor passed over the Bahamas as scheduled, and in fact did lead his flight to the northeast of the Atlantic.
So what he kept saying to them was, but he took over the control. It's basically this knobhead's fault. Who it was essentially. There's no proof of this, but it was probably his first.
In the investigation,
it was probably his first flight. Do you know? Did it say that?
Taylor was not at fault because the compasses stopped working.
But the compasses, but no, they didn't stop working because he thought he was somewhere else. That's why his compasses stopped working. He thought he was in a completely different location to where he actually was. So he was going, my compasses are out of line, but they weren't out of line. They were correct, but he was thought he was somewhere else. Does that make sense? Do you see what I mean? So he was then what he kept doing was, because he thought they were on the left of America, so they'd have to come in west. Is it to go? No, east. East to come into land. So he kept sending them north and east. But if you look where they actually were, north and east actually sends them out into the ocean. So he basically steered them off over there, and after 5 hours they were just gone and then never heard from again. But what's crazy about that one is, and it's actually pretty crazy, is that another flight took off to go and try and help them figure out where they were. When they sent their last signal 4 hours after their takeoff. But that flight blew up 20 minutes after just taking off.
Just randomly blew up.
Yeah, but the previous day there was engine issues with that plane, so they just attributed it to that.
Yeah.
And then there's more. There's another ones. The 17th of January 19 1949, the Star Aerial left Bermuda to fly to Jamaica. After one OK transmission, the plane was never heard from again. An investigation never found any evidence to suggest why this happened. This is the only one that's actually pretty crazy. We can use this as my believable. Do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle still thing? Which is crazy is that a sister ship, the Star Tiger, had something incredibly similar happen to it exactly the year before, and the note from the investigation into what happened, like the ending note is, what happened in this case will never be known, and the fate of Star Tiger must remain an unsolved mystery.
And what happens in Bermuda stays in Bermuda.
Yeah, and there's another one, actually. It's the ship of the Carroll A. Deering. The ship was spotted near completion of its journey, where they used a megaphone to say that they'd lost both their anchors. The ship then never reached its destination, and was found deserted with all crewmen's belongings, the ship logs, key navigation things, 2 lifeboats all missing. The steering wheel and other things had also been destroyed by what seemed to be a sledgehammer. 3 months later, a bottle was found with the following note: Deering captured by oil burning ship, something like a chaser, taking off everything, handcuffing crew hiding all over ship, no chance of escape, finder please notify headquarters of Deering. How crazy.
Oh. I think
It
personally
was load of
it's
bollocks.
like a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you get what I mean. Like, I think they're flying in the Bermuda Triangle and they're like, shit, I'm in the Bermuda Triangle. And then they kind of lose focus and they're like crashing and shit because it's mental, like in their head.
But
Yeah,
if you look,
like
all the things that happen that are attributed to Bermuda Triangle, none of them happen in the Bermuda Triangle. So all these flights and all these stories that they go, that's the Bermuda Triangle's crazy. All the flight paths are just outside of the Bermuda Triangle and like literally like hundreds of miles away from
because
it.
they're literally going out their way to avoid the Bermuda Triangle, which makes it worse.
Their flight path literally isn't there, but people just go, that's the Bermuda Triangle that did that. It's literally just one of those mysteries that's a mystery for it's a mystery why it's a mystery.
Isn't like a lot of you got like obviously like violent weather and stuff, which would probably cause problems.
Attribute to some of it, yeah.
Isn't it just to do with isn't the compasses thing though, rather than paranormal explanation, just due to the magnetic poles in the area or something like that? There's like a lot of magnetic variations or magnetic poles which create issues with compasses, which create issues with the compasses, and I think that's like why. And obviously, like in the past, when probably stuff was worse, that would have made it harder for ships and planes and shit. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
Just going back to that ship, or when I was saying it's bollocks, that was actually proved to be bollocks. They found out that some bloke had just written. The person who gave that note in saying, "Oh, I found this note," was the person who wrote it.
The person who wrote the note,
yeah. But it was later found out. But what is kind of what they think actually happened to that ship is the captain and the first mate had both been chatting shit about each other before that voyage, and the first mate was wanting his own ship, basically to being like, I don't want to work with the captain, because I think the captain was American and loads of the crew were Danish. And then the first mate was like, look, I want my own ship, but he was denied it. And then he was quoted as saying, well, then I'll get the captain before we get to Norfolk. I will. So, but then for that comment, he was arrested and bailed out by the captain.
Arrested for that?
Yeah, he was arrested because it's kind of like not treason, but I think he was sort of like for plotting against, I don't know. But either way. But what doesn't make sense is so apparently the megaphone, the person who shouted on the megaphone to them sounded Danish, like Scandinavian, not the captain. So that makes you think that the ship could have been overthrown by the crew and stuff, especially because of that previous comment. And then, but why was the ship just abandoned halfway between? And then also apparently the people who spotted the people with the microphone, apparently just after there was a ship that drove past, but they covered up their name with a piece of tarpaulin or something, so maybe they're being chased by a pirate boat as well. You don't know. Yeah. But I just wanted to sort of debunk some of the Bermuda Triangle stuff, because it's just people always go, well, it's so crazy, isn't it? Do you believe in the Bermuda Triangle? It's just well, not really, because half the stuff that's linked to the Bermuda Triangle isn't even in the Bermuda Triangle. If you've actually again,
you'd happily fly through it with no qualms.
Absolutely not. I have literally no worries. It's kind of like one of those that's just so in terms of believability, I would put it at 0. But because it's so many of the incidents that happen, a lot of them haven't even reached. One of the big ones is a ship disappeared off the Gulf of Mexico, and its path was to go through the Bermuda Triangle. And everyone goes,
actually
"Oh, the
reach it.
Bermuda Triangle, yeah, it didn't make it." But everyone
Yeah.
goes, "The Bermuda Triangle sunk that ship."
Which
It's
didn't
just
even
like,
make it. Yeah.
I don't know. It just
Yeah,
to me, like everyone just sort of
I've
wants
never
it
been a
to be.
firm believer in the Bermuda Triangle. Personally, I just think it's just
Before,
something.
yeah.
Sorry for boring you,
Before,
man.
Sorry, yeah,
listened-
sorry, just a bit tired. Apologies.
Before I listened to this, I'd have probably given it like a 3, but now I'll probably give it like a 1.
Really? No, I think when I was like 15, I had a little search about the Bermuda Triangle, and everyone was just kind of like, it's just like people creating like myths and narratives, you know what I mean, as well, and a lot of the
Folklore.
stuff.
Well, it's like it comes from that Pulp Fiction magazine, and I think that like says all you need to know really. Like they made up a load, like they just sort of like over exaggerated a load of stories and sort of made it seem like this Bermuda Triangle was this crazy thing because it was a Pulp Fiction magazine.
I always think as well, when something's unexplained, people just straight away go towards something paranormal rather than
aliens, ghosts.
Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
Whereas like,
Well, that oh god, what was the fucking Netflix documentary that I've heard about from here now? The Cecil Hotel one.
Cecil
What's her name?
Hotel, and
Yeah.
That's a great example, isn't it? It's been explained, so everyone just made up loads of stories, and then it just ends up being like. But if you like kind of stories like that, like I know we've asked us to plug YouTube channels last time we're here, but
Mhm.
it's just like I definitely would check out that YouTube channel. He's got like loads of videos on it. So for some like the unknowns, mystifying, consumed by the apocalypse, the Battle of Los Angeles, the lost colony of Roanoke,
yeah, I've seen a
simulated
couple of
reality.
them.
Oh, that sounds
But it's a really, really good. Like I don't know why this guy doesn't have like a Netflix channel. He's really good. Like the way he puts facts across and the way
kind
he
of
makes
like a
it entertaining is
BuzzFeed
really,
Unsolved
really good.
type thing.
Yeah, but like these videos, like well, I've never actually watched BuzzFeed Unsolved. I won't lie, but
Yeah.
they're like half-an-hour videos, just sort of
Like an
detailing
actual
all the facts and
documentary.
figures. Yeah, kind of like a
sounds
mini
good.
mini documentary. They're really good.
So you're gonna rate it 0 then, Rheis?
Yeah, I give it 0.
Ben?
Probably about 0. Yeah, I'm not really someone who believes in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start getting death threats from the Bermuda Triangle.
Fan
The
club are
fanboys,
coming for you now.
Bermuda Triangle
The
fan club.
Bermudas, the files. I know that's cat.
The
it's not.
Yeah.
The
That's
cat files.
The cat files are coming for you. So I've got sort of as we're all in Liverpool. Well, I mean you're not, but you know what I mean.